And we are live. Welcome to the pre-show for Stories That Work, our final broadcast. And to hang out and have some fun, I have Deacon Nicholas Kotar on here. How you doing?
I'm okay. I'm very glad to be sitting here and having a nice cup of coffee on this cold and snowy day over in upstate New York.
Good. I'm glad you came on. So, for those watching, wondering why we got started earlier, Deacon Nicholas has something else, another appointment he has to get to during our broadcast. And that is related to keeping your job, I'm guessing.
You would be correct.
So I said, well, why don't you come on early and we'll just hang out and chat for a little bit. And, we've been doing this show for 2 years now, so I'm pretty excited. And we have, I don't know if you know, I haven't told you our full setup. No one knows our list of guests, okay? But we have 7 guests lined up.
And I'm first. Haha.
And you're first. Yeah. See, that's how you do it. You're like, I'm not available. I need to come on early.
Secret trick of the trade. What trade? I don't know. But anyway.
I don't know. But for those who watch the show, we had you on recently. Mm-hmm. Since you've been on the show, I ordered and read the first book in the Raven Sun series. I absolutely loved it. And I will tell you, if you're Orthodox, half the fun in the book is all the secret little Orthodox things. I'm like, yes, that's from liturgy. That's from liturgy.
Yes. Easter eggs.
So what did you do that? Like, at what point did you decide to include all those Easter eggs in the book? Like, did you know that going into it?
Oh, totally. It was, those Easter eggs were in the first version of the book, the one that never got published and never will, the one that I have in very dark corners of my hard drive, only for me to look at if I want to, a snort laugh at how terrible it was. But yeah, the sacramental stuff was there from the beginning. That's because of why I wrote. I mean, the reason I wrote it was not just because I had to write something, but because I wanted to kind of explore the underlying storytelling potential in liturgy. And you might find this interesting, but recently I had a lesson with my seminarians and I wasn't well prepared for it. So I thought, what can I do really quickly that could have them engaged and excited and surprised, and that won't get me fired? And so I did this chart in front of them on the board, drawing out Vespers as the hero's journey.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it worked. It worked. It was almost point by point.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my God, I'm gonna need a copy of that. Can you recreate? Did you save it or take a picture? Or
I'm sure someone took a picture of it, but yeah.
Okay, I need a picture of that.
All right, I'll try to dig it up.
I do. That's rather exciting. For those who don't know what the hero's journey is, do you want to give them? This is like why you like. This is part of the reason why Star Wars took off. This is why so many different stories. Harry Potter. That kind of thing. Do you want to explain the hero's journey?
Yeah, I mean, most of the time when people hear the hero's journey, they automatically start thinking of Joseph Campbell, a hero with 1,000 faces. And I've never read Campbell, nor have I read any of Jung's psychology, which is the inspiration for Joseph Campbell's work. So actually, it's archetypal kind of thinking, but I've never read any of that. So why do I talk about it? Because of Tolkien. Tolkien talks about sort of universal structures that follow a heroic journey in all fairy tale traditions throughout history, throughout the world. And his argument is that this thing, which I call the hero's journey, which is just basically the structure of drama as Aristotle has it, as the structure of the perfect dramatic arc, as Aristotle has it in his On Poetics, there's something universal in it precisely because Christ embodied it in his life. Mm-hmm. And every single part of this. So basically Christ is the archetypal hero, capital A, capital H. And all the stories that came before and after in some way reflect the reality of his heroic journey. So that's why I'm so obsessed with it. And you can see it. You can see the structure in a lot of really unexpected places, like Vespers. Actually, yeah. Well, in the liturgy too. but
Yeah.
I haven't worked that one yet. But it's definitely there.
And it's in so many different childhood places as well. Like if you look back at The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, it's classic. Yep. I mean, you start to understand. And I think what's good, I want to ask you this. I think this is good because there is pushback that the hero's journey can create a formulaic, boring story, but that's not the way it works.
I mean, that's to say that just shows you how much we've become postmodern, because the idea that any sort of canon or frame or formula is limiting is an extremely new idea. It's a revolutionary idea. It started in the Romantic era, and even in the Romantic age, it wasn't. It was only the beginnings of it. And really, it's more of a postmodern thing. Actually, anybody who knows anything about the way that the brain works, or about the way stories work, or about the way literature works, or about the way anything works, know that that the frame provides the greatest amount of potential creativity. Because if you are given no reference point, most of the time, all you're going to do is just freeze up and create something useless, because you don't have any sort of frame of reference. And even the things that seem to be the most revolutionary and seem to be the most unexpected, the most not formulaic, oftentimes are either reacting to existing formula to invert them, or just hiding the formula so deeply that you can't see it. And it just keeps showing up again and again. And yeah, so I don't agree. I think that's just simply wrong. And that's just the fact that we have been told this from Aristotle to now. And any of the greatest stories that continue to endure from age to age are either exactly according to that structure, or are purposely trying to fight that structure, but by fighting it are simply echoing it by providing a mirror image of it. So it's still there.
Yeah, the writer knows what they're doing. It's not arbitrary or guessing game. It's there can be some artistic ways to use the outline, right? But that's because you know it and you know where it works, and you might say, I'm going to go backwards here with this outline because, or shift this or skip that step because for this story, that step, doesn't work.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's like, so imagine a map, right? You have point X at the beginning and you have point Y at the end. And in the middle, you have mountains and lakes and rivers and flatlands and rugged lands and all in between. And if you're a brave and adventurous soul, you're going to take the mountains all the way, right? It's going to be difficult. It's going to be horrible, but it's going to be spectacular and wonderful. If you're a lazy person who doesn't want to do anything too difficult, you're going to take the easy route. You're going to go sit in a boat and go down the river, right? Both are perfectly legitimate ways of writing your story, since that's the metaphor we're using here. And both will get you to the same destination. But they are formulaic because they have followed the X's. All the differences is getting from one point to another.
That's right. Well, I'm glad you come on and hung out. We got 1 minute to showtime. So I'm going to say goodbye. Have fun at work.
Thank you.
And the wonderful weather that you're enjoying up there.
It's back to shoveling time right now. Here we go.
And I really appreciate working with you. And I will give a shout out too. I've signed up as one of Deacon Nicholas's patrons.
Not only a patron, but an elect patron. Thank you.
I am, yes.
He's one of the elect.
It's the only area of my life where I feel elect.
Yes.
And it costs me money.
Sorry.
That's okay. I was very excited to do it. I'm excited working with you on my writing because I have a story inside of me I'm trying to get out. Good. And when you offered that, I was rather excited. So thank you for coming on and chatting with me. And talking with you these last few weeks has been so much fun about stories.
Good. I'm glad. Have a good show.
Thank you. Adios. Okay, we'll be right back in 1 minute with our final episode of Stories That Work, our final broadcast. And so in the moment, I'm going to put up our splash introduction screen. And so you can see that while you're waiting. And we will be back in just a moment. So give me a second to find that. And I'll be back in 1 minute. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the final episode of Stories That Work. I am your host, Deacon Adam Roberts.
I am your co-host, Father Matthew Howell, coming to you from Alaska, where the sun is finally rising. Actually, it'll rise by the end of the show, but it's still dark here right now.
So we have so much scheduled. I want to get started right away, and let's bring on our two co-hosts for today, Father John Finley and Father Joseph Honeycutt, all from the Antiochian Department of Missions Evangelism. Hello.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning. Father John, as the chairman of the department, do you mind opening us in prayer?
O heavenly King, O Comforter, the Spirit of truth, who art in all places and fillest all things, treasury of good things and giver of life, come and dwell in us and cleanse us from every stain and save our souls, O gracious Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Hello, everyone. We have a lot of stories to share. I don't even know if any of you know all of what's going to happen during this session. Am I the only one who knows? Everybody that's coming on?
I don't know what's going to happen.
You're the wizard behind the curtain.
Which means there's not really a lot going on. This is our final episode of Stories That Work. We have come to a close after 2 years. I'm thankful to everyone who's been a part of this. Behind the scenes, our audience who has paid attention, our fan, Kenny. Kenny has been a great fan. Our guests, we've had such a wide range of guests with so many incredible things. Usually they bring on stories, and sometimes they tell us about storytelling, the art of it. And that's been rather exciting. It's just been everything related to stories for the past 2 years. And so to go around and make sure we understand who everybody is, Father John Finley is the chairman of the Department of Missions Evangelism for the Antiochian Archdiocese of North America. Father Joseph Honeycutt is the assistant chair, and we've had him on several times. You may know him better as our great storyteller of our archdiocese. And then Father Matthew Howell, my partner in crime for this past year. We've had a lot of fun, and you cover when I decide to disappear to the beach for a few days.
Yeah, interestingly, last week I was flying solo, and Father Joseph was our guest. And I received several messages from people saying that was one of your best shows. So
that's not true. There was only one guy watching. You told us.
Several text messages from Kenny.
Right. Yes. So I'm excited about our Jubilee celebration, and I've put a decent amount of effort into trying to have a lot of fun today, especially we have the joy of the Incarnation coming next week. So I just thought it would be, we should have a joyful episode and have a lot of fun. So I'm rather excited with everything we have scheduled. To get started, I'm going to bring on a surprise guest. This is a last-minute plan, but and I hope he's ready, but I want to bring on Kenny. Kenny, are you ready?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay, I thought I was going on later.
There he is. There's our fan.
Yeah. Hey.
I've got our next guest is coming on in a couple of minutes, and so I thought I'd go ahead and give you an opportunity. You can come back like every 10 to 15 minutes if you want.
Like host it a little bit?
Yeah.
Let's not get carried away, Kenny.
Oh, sorry.
Just keep the comments coming in the chat section.
Yeah, perfect. Okay.
You don't have to say anything right now. I just wanted to let people know, but you do have a story to share. Yeah. And so that's going to be in about a half an hour, and I'm rather excited about that. But I just wanted to bring you on and say hello. That's all.
Hey, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
And how's the weather in Prescott?
Great. I mean, it's like threatening to be cold, but it's not. I got a fire going just for ambiance.
Yeah. I think you should share your typical winter is different than what people think of for Arizona.
Oh yeah. So we're in Prescott. We're in the Pines, and it's actually, this is kind of crazy. Prescott is home to the nation's largest pine forest in Arizona. So that's
Arizona.
That's pretty bizarre. But yeah, we're in the mountains, a mile high, and we get snow, but not. It stays for a day at most, and then melts away. So it's pretty perfect because we get legit snow, and then we enjoy it 3 times a year, kind of thing, and it doesn't bother us too much.
And there's really cool things. I think I've probably told this story before, but my first trip to St. George and Prescott, when I land at the airport, Kenny meets me there, and he's trying to talk to me about very serious spiritual matters. And then I see a sign to warn about watching for, as we call in our part of the country, donkeys. Watch out for rogue wild donkeys.
Yeah,
burros. And I just got so excited. And I think it was another 5 or 10 minutes before he got me back to talking about ministry, because I was like, I need to know about all the possible wildlife that we could run into.
Yeah.
And we learned about javelinas.
Oh yeah.
Right. And
those are regular visitors to our house. Yeah.
Yes. It's just fascinating. So that was so much fun. But
I had a random experience a couple nights ago. I was outside and there was like a deer walking down my street, and that's the first. But I had a full rack, and they were just walking down our paved road, and I haven't seen that before. That was pretty nuts.
That's good. Okay, I have to check on one of our guests.
All right,
Kenny, thanks for coming on. Father John, will you give a 1-minute summary of what we've been doing over the past year for the department? Just a quick update, because this is a production.
Well, first, I have to tell a story about signs.
Okay.
And my appeal actually worked. So we could call it stories that work. I was invited to come and visit the Holy Archangel's Church in Lafayette, Louisiana, when Father Philip Rogers was the pastor there. I brought my wife out because we had friends from Santa Barbara that had moved to Lafayette. And so Father Philip came and picked us up at the New Orleans airport. And as we were driving along the I-10 towards, signs towards Baton Rouge and such, I saw one of these great big green interstate signs that said New Iberia. And I said, wait, what is that? He said, what do you mean? I said, New Iberia. I said, as in Tabasco sauce? And he said, well, yeah, actually it is. And then I saw another sign that said Avery Island, so Tabasco sauce is in Avery Island, New Iberia. I said, can we go? So we didn't get to stop immediately and turn, but we did go. And I had there, after touring the factory, Tabasco sauce ice cream, and it was good. All right. So now, what was your question? What have we been doing the past year?
Yeah, and you got to make it fast. We're already ready for our the first segment of our Jubilee. Yeah, what have we been doing this past year?
We've been COVID. In the department, you mean?
Yeah.
We've been doing stories that work. We've been doing online conferences. We've been working on developing curricula for St. Athanasius Academy and St. Athanasius College. I've continued to travel where a mission church or a parish might be able to pick up the travel expenses. So I haven't been totally nailed both feet to the ground, but for the most part, we have been grounded because of the COVID situation. And we're just hoping and praying that things loosen up in 2021.
Okay. Thank you for that summary. Kenny, I'm going to minimize you so I can bring on our next two guests, and we'll see you back in about half an hour. And here's our first surprise. The first time ever together online, we have Father Turbo Qualls and Jonathan Paget. This is a historic moment.
It's awesome. I'm actually very, very happy to meet Father Turbo, because we've been kind of talking a little bit online, through private channels, and I've seen him comment on a few things, and I've also been watching, what the Brotherhood's been doing. So I'm really happy to meet you, Father Turbo. Although now he seems frozen.
Yeah, his scene's a little bit frozen. But I thought it'd be interesting to bring the two of you on here because Father Turbo was the first person I heard talk about that comic books being the closest thing we have to like American mythology. You've got the symbolic world and your heavy investment in storytelling and the way that's affecting thousands of people. And so I just thought there was a really nice overlap there. And so we'll wait for Father Turbo that is kind of, we could turn that into a meme probably and put some captions over that for him later on. He might have to pop out and get back in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Oh, I already snapped a shot of the screen so I can show my family when I get home that I know you guys.
You were in the same space as the esteemed Jonathan Pajot and Father Turbo.
You guys. This is embarrassing. You have to stop.
So I want to know, actually, I am curious if you don't mind sharing. You said you've been following the Fellowship of St. Moses the Black. So I'm curious about your interest there, Jonathan.
Well, I just think that I really love, obviously Father Moses was the first that I kind of encountered, and I really appreciated the tone and the way that through kind of love and an honesty, like an honest love about the dark history of the United States relating to race, but also a kind of sense that we're in this together and we want to kind of move towards a real coming together and a real reconciliation in Christ. And so I think that that's what I really admire. There's a lot of reason for anger, and I think that there's an expression of showing us like what the reasons for anger is, and then covering it with the kind of love and forgiveness, that's at least what I've gotten from Father Moses, especially, which I really appreciate. And also just his person, like he's very impressive. Like, you can see that he's someone who's done a lot of spiritual work in his own life, and that kind of shines. So I just think that it's the kind of work that I see as a positive work done in terms of the social divisions that exist still in North America. So,
Father Turbo, we got you back.
I'm back. How
are you doing?
Better than I deserve, that's for sure. Yeah.
I have a question. I was talking to someone recently about the work of the fellowship and some things that Father Moses had said, and I really don't feel like I can accurately explain this, but I saw a correlation or a parallel in the way Father Moses talked about what slavery did for the African American community, but at the same time, it created a spirituality that only comes from suffering. We know this from our faith, that there's a salvation that comes from our suffering, but we can also see a parallel in this in the first 300 years of Christianity, that there was a suffering that came out of the spirituality came out of the suffering of the church for the first 300 years. And, whether it's God's will or God's allowance, I'm not trying to, place that, but I think it's interesting to see that's something the fellowship has really been able to talk about is what comes out of that suffering and the healing that comes from that. Are you still there? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
you are.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll be able to answer it with anywhere near the kind of depth and sweetness that Father Moses would answer it, but I think part of what people are seeing is not so much that something is being kind of concocted or invented, but rather it's being revealed, and that there's a resonance that's there, that when you encounter it, that it's real. And I think that is running through every people group's narrative, every people group's mythos, every people group's story. It's running through every individual who's willing to embrace the reality of that calling of suffering. And I think that I just recently gave a talk on this, and it's going to be something I'm working on in a chapter of a book, but it's like Belshazzar, the wise man, and his gift of myrrh, offering, St. Nikolai Beremovich, he talks about how Belshazzar You have Melikor, who brings gold, Gaspar, who brings frankincense, gold for a king, frankincense for a god. But Belshazzar, who comes from, Ethiopia or Egypt, depending on who you're talking to, brings myrrh as one who would be 3 days dead. And this offering of, suffering, it's in the DNA of all of us who would be Christians. And I think that especially for, those of us in the North American context, the African American experience brings that forward in a really explicit manner. And so it's not so much of, again, like I said, trying to kind of make something happen, but just uncovering it. And I think that's what people resonate with more than any of the kind of contemporary political noise surrounding it. It goes far deeper than that.
Jonathan, I'm curious, how much is suffering coming up in your discussions with people outside of Christianity, all these people that are talking to you?
Yeah, I think that's really one of the key things that is bringing people back to Christianity right now is the nihilism, this feeling of wandering meaninglessness, especially young men who are just kind of wandering through life. At least those are the people that I'm in contact with. And I think that the story that Christ offers, which is this transformation of death into glory, this transformation of suffering into glory, through this connection to the divine logos, I think is something which is resonating with people, really, where it's not to say we just need to take away your suffering. We just need to make you feel okay. We need to make you feel better in terms of making you feel comfortable. Because a lot of the people that are out today, it's actually their suffering comes from their comfortable zone. It comes from this like having nothing meaningful to do and just being there watching Netflix and playing video games all day. And so it's like it's a weird kind of suffering where you can't tell them that it's like, well, just make it go away, because what else are you going to do? Like, how much more comfort can you offer someone? So I feel like this idea that in Christianity we take on suffering and then you transform it into something meaningful and purposeful, and which can be an offering to God, gives people hope in a strange manner.
I would say too, forgive me, I just want to say, because it's something I tell my biological children, I tell my spiritual children, people are suffering from not suffering, fundamentally they're not. And again, I just want to drive that home, because I think that's one of the amazing things about, one of my big things right now is people, especially us faithful, we have to stop looking at orthodoxy as, we are in the marketplace of ideas competing with everyone else. That's one of the biggest problems, because when you look at, I'm in the Serbian church, when you look at the way the Kosovo has been a means of invigoration and guidance and transfiguration for the Serbian people, you look at the Russians coming out of the Soviet bloc, you look at the people, the Greeks, the Turks. I mean, there is this theme which is ever present, and not just in the early centuries of Christianity, it's in the church at all times. And it's when we move away from that, when we try to kind of pacify that reality of needing to suffer, whether it's through, the kind of opiate of actual political power, or the opiate of, trying to appease certain institutions, whether it be academic or political, that moves us away from that reality. And it's actually when we embrace it, and that's what you see over and over and over again in the life of the church. And individuals, persons, they see that in their own lives. Any of us who are raising children now, I got a 19-year-old all the way down to about to have another one in January. And this is the thing over and over again, is getting to the root and embracing those things. That's where we find life,
We've got to move on.
Wait, Father John has a comment.
Father John.
I think Father Moses is an iconic figure, literally. And the way he tells the story of his family and the history of his family and embraces the suffering, and he takes that quilt that was sewn by his great grandmother and just, caresses it. It reminds me of this phrase in the anaphora of Saint Basil the Great, where we ask God, make the evil good by thy virtue. and so that can be transformed. And Father Seraphim Aldea, he told me when we were discussing the unique style of his iconography, he said there's something that all icons have in common, and that is simultaneously portraying pain and compassion. And I think that when we embrace the suffering that comes our way with compassion, that we're displaying in our society the same thing. And you know, when God judges nations, everybody suffers, and we think that's not fair. But people, the unrighteous, suffer because of their unrighteousness, but the righteous suffer too. But they suffer for the glory of God. And so we can embrace the suffering that comes our way as an opportunity to worship and praise God.
Thank you for sharing that. I remember the first time you told me about the pain and compassion and how helpful that was. Well, Father Turbo and Jonathan, we're moving on. I'm glad you came on for a few minutes.
Thank you. Thank you much.
Thank you so much.
And you saw the two of them here for the first time. Just want to point that out.
We look forward to your YouTube special together, talking about comic books as American mythology. You got to make it happen, okay?
I've been thinking about inviting Father Turbo actually for a while, and so that's probably going to happen.
Do it.
Will happen.
Let's do it.
Yeah, all right.
That needs to happen.
All right, thanks. It's good to meet everybody.
So, you know, it's interesting. I didn't plan this, but our next surprise guest, we probably couldn't even tell you how many teenagers and young adults he's helped with suffering, because that's something that happens a lot. I know of a teenager that was suffering and prayed and prayed and prayed, and he asked God to take the suffering away. And the priest was helping him try to understand where suffering fits in our lives as Christians. And because the suffering didn't go the way, the teen started to believe that he still believed God was there, but he started to take on an idea that God doesn't care because his specific prayer wasn't being answered. And so I want to thank Steve Cristoforo for everything you've been doing with our teens and young adults and the Be the Bee ministry. And you keep trucking forward in COVID. How's it going?
Thank God. I'm doing okay. I'm caffeinated. I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Can you imagine not having coffee and doing ministry?
That is a suffering that I'm not willing to endure. That's a line too far.
That is too far. So what are you guys doing these days?
Oh man, I'm looking forward to taking a few days off when Christmas and New Year's comes around. But at this point, we've got sort of daily content that we're doing from Monday through Saturday for youth and young adults. Starting with Be the Bee, new episodes are coming out pretty much every Monday. We're doing small group curricula on Tuesday. We've got a pop culture podcast on Wednesday, a Bible study on Thursday. Speaking of suffering, a podcast on like the struggles young adults face on Friday, and then a little Bible study wrap up that we do on Saturday. So,
and I want to say I don't know that you're writing. I guess I'm more like a kid than I realize, because those emails you're putting out, the lengthier emails, it's such good content.
Oh, thank God. Thank God.
Yeah. I don't know how many people are signed up, but I wanted to encourage people. I don't know where they can sign up to get these, but
Let's do a plug.
We need to do a plug.
Put the link in the comments.
Pluggables. Yeah. I think if you go to y2am.org/emails, that'll get you on the weekly email. We've got like 4,200 people, I think, on them at this point. Sure, the more the merrier. Yeah.
I think it's just a good reminder, of some stuff that as an adult, I would argue we probably know, but we need to be reminded. This is why do we hear the Gospels over and over in church, right? We need these reminders. Yeah. And so whether you're hearing it for the first time or it's a reminder, it's just really well-written content.
Thanks. Well, and I think what we've tried to do, even when we craft our social media presence for the week, we always try to start with the Sunday gospel and epistle readings, and that kind of becomes the goal of the week. So the videos are all pointing in that direction, and to the extent that we can, the podcasts are pointing in that direction, and the drip of Facebook posts. I mean, I think that's kind of the it's the sort of the goal, it's the summit of the week. And I think in terms of the communications that we do, it tries to be kind of the central theme that we're marching towards. Because that's the point, right? It's not just to entertain kids. It's not just to distract them. It's to hopefully get them prepared to actually encounter the Lord in the liturgy. So that's it.
I will post a link to that. I recommend staying up. And then do you mind sharing? You get testimonies all the time, and I love when you share your testimonies of the way the work you guys have been doing has been helping people. Can you think of one off the top of your head and share that?
Sure, I can share one of my favorite ones, which also in our weird sort of age when we're doing a lot of like stuff online might be an interesting lesson for us to learn about just interacting online. So maybe 4 years ago, there was like a comment in one of the videos that we did. I think it might have been icons, and it came across as a little bit acerbic, a little bit maybe combative, a little trolly potentially. And I responded in the way that I always try to respond to the comments that we get, just sort of reasonably and peacefully. And there was a little bit of pushback, and then just tried to respond reasonably and peacefully. And this person sort of changed their tune over the course of a couple of months and then just sort of disappeared. Whatever. I thought this was just another little interaction with a troll in YouTube comments. Fast forward maybe 2 years, I get an email from a guy says, "Hey, me and my wife are thinking of joining the church. Just wanted to reach out to you if you had some time to talk to us. What the next steps are. Whatever. Sure." Got on with them. I'm talking to the guy, and sometime during the course of the conversation, a head pops out of the corner of the screen, and it's his wife. And she says, "Oh, by the way, do you remember that conversation, like that weird sort of troll person that was making these terrible comments in one of the videos that you guys did?" I was like, "No," because we get a lot of those. And she described it, and it was her, and she kind of like that was one of her first encounters with the church. As kind of like this anonymous YouTube troll, and like seeing the best in her and responding sort of like faithfully and peacefully rather than derogatorily, gave her the room to start sort of like questioning. And now they're in the church, and it's kind of like a cool lesson, I think, because we've all spent so much time online, more time than normal, I think, during the course of this very weird year. But as long as we can sort of remember why we're communicating what we're communicating and who we're communicating for, good stuff happens because people rise to the occasion, I think. So it's one of my favorite stories.
That is, that's a touching. And there are, if we, I think that's what's important. We did our outreach conference in October. And one of the things we kept hearing from our presenters, if you look for these stories, they haven't gone away in COVID. It's we can, and so that's the message of Be the Bee, right? Like, what are we looking for?
Yeah, totally. Because that's such a beautiful metaphor that exists in Scripture, and like Chrysostom has used it, and Paisios has used it, and the way that we try to do is just to remind young people in particular that the kingdom of heaven really is at hand. That the people that we're encountering on a daily basis really are icons of the living God. That God really, like his hand and his providence really is at work in even the most difficult, guys, you were talking about suffering a second ago, even in the midst of these very difficult situations, like God is here, he is present in our midst. So that's really the point. Just hopefully opening people's eyes to that reality, because once you see that changes everything.
It does. Well, I'm really thankful you come on. Did anybody have a question for Steve before he promised he's going to bill us if we go more than 10 minutes?
Well, we'd like to thank you for your 9.5 minutes of time this morning.
Deacon Adam is great at maximizing what the value.
We're just under that. I was a lawyer before seminary, and we used to bill in tenths of an hour. So, oh man, we came close.
I remembered that. That's why I was saying I'm not ready for an invoice.
I do want to say, if I can be a little serious here, that the internet, and since we spend a lot of time on the internet, has affected us so much. It's important what you say, Steve, about replying to people, because we get so, we're not only tempted, but perhaps we're accustomed to replying in a very terse, curt, I'm on the internet, look how bad I am way. And I can't tell you how many times, I'm only on Twitter, I'm not on Facebook, but I'll see something and I'll say, I need to say something. And I'm like, what are you doing? what are you doing? And if something breaks my concentration for just a moment, like I look this way and I look back at my phone, I'm like, get out of here. It's a very big temptation. So you've convicted me today, at least for the 30 seconds you have left. I'll be convicted not to act the way I normally do. Thank you.
Oh, especially on Twitter. Twitter is like possibly the most toxic and fun place on the internet, but it's so toxic.
Well, next time you have a YouTube troll, just reach out to Father Joseph and say, "Is it you?"
There you go.
Steve, thank you. I don't know how many people are thankful for the work you and your team have been doing, even prior to COVID. So thank you for trucking along, not pushing pause. And
we are thankful for you, Steve, and your ministry. God bless you.
Keep up the good work.
And I'm thankful for the stories that you guys have shared, because I think especially during these difficult times, it's kind of helpful to share encouragement. So I love that you're going out with a bang and just kind of like giving us a reason to be thankful at the end of a really wacky year. So thank God for this.
All right. Thank you. God bless. So moving right along, and this, I just assume this is God's providence. I want to jump right into another segue with the executive director of OCF, Deacon Merrick.
Hi, guys.
How you doing?
Hey.
Thank God, I'm doing well.
Are you not far from me? Like, are you in town?
I am in town. I was kind of hoping we could sit next to each other, but I guess we didn't make that happen.
We should have that. So it's kind of exciting for those who don't know. You, after retiring from Antiochian Village, you moved down to Franklin, Tennessee.
Yes, we've been here just over a year, and quite a year, but we love it here. The parish community is wonderful, family close by, and it's been, thank God, a good transition for us.
So I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about one of the, it's hard to really like put a value on this, but one of the harder segments that's been hit, or demographics in our society, has been the college students. Like there's so much expectation put on the social aspect of college, right? And engagement in the classroom, and OCF is a campus ministry. And so you guys have been just dealt an incredible challenge. And I'm curious what you guys have been doing.
It has been a huge challenge, and fortunately, I have a team, our staff, and we have a group of student leaders that have just been proactive about saying, look, here's what we need to do. And they've just kind of grabbed the reins. And we've done a lot of things virtually. Obviously, it's been fun to see, not fun. It's been encouraging to see some of the feedback that we've gotten from students directly about the impact, because like you said, the statistics and things show like it's a tough time for all of us, but especially in that young adult college age range, it definitely is needed. And we were fortunate as well in November to do kind of a hybrid retreat where there was a large portion of it that was virtual, but there were small groups of students that were able to meet at various churches or in localities. And that was a huge step in terms of starting to kind of bridge the gap between everything we were doing virtually and moving back to at least on levels where we could do it safely, some in-person stuff. It's been encouraging, and thank God we're working on the spring semester, and where possible bringing students together to be in person, but where not possible, we're going to continue some of the things we've been doing, like small groups. We've got, I think we've got about 18 groups that are wrapping up this semester. They meet once a week. There's anywhere between 4 to 6 students that meet with a facilitator that's been equipped and trained, and the feedback from students has been like one individual said to us, I can't tell you how lonely I'd be this semester if it wasn't for the work you guys have been doing with things like these small groups and that sort of thing. So that's encouraging for me to build on, and not just be like, okay, here's what we need to do, but we need to do more of that. We need to engage our students, and I think in general the church engaging the faithful as well as those that are even seeking. That's part of why we're here.
Yeah, I think it's important people know the small group thing is not something that you kind of like thought of on Monday and then Tuesday send out an email. Like the amount of work that went into your training materials and the facilitating materials, I was really impressed with the people that you pulled in, and you're like, we're going to do this. We really want it to be an edifying experience.
Yes, and I was fortunate that when I lived in Pennsylvania, I was exposed to some of the small group happenings with little buckets of clergy, and in fact, a good friend of mine helped kind of coordinate that through. He got a grant, I believe, through Lilly, and they were doing that with clergy, and I think it's starting to spread actually. And so I was very familiar with the concept, and I knew based on my conversations with him that it's not just something you do. And fortunately, even in my own, in kind of my own training, I've gotten a lot of training in group facilitation because I used to run the ropes course at Antiochian Village. And there's, I don't know if art's the right word, but there's certainly an art to it. And there's an education and equipping that had to happen. And we knew that to offer the students our best, we couldn't just do it haphazardly. We needed to equip our leaders and help them facilitate the experience for these students that would be life-giving.
Yeah.
Is your small group material available for churches who want to do small groups, not just for college students, but in other settings? Is that something that would be transferable or applicable in a parish setting?
I think it would be, it would definitely be a conversation point that could be, but our equipping was more working with individuals. So it's not necessarily we've got this booklet or document.
Okay.
But I do think it is transferable, and there's I would welcome anyone that, whether you're from a parish or a ministry or a youth director or whatever, if it's something you might be interested in, we could certainly help make connections.
Okay. Well, Deacon Merrick, I'm thankful that you have joined us today and that you took time out of your day as well. We're asking all the people who work take a few minutes and come talk to us. So I'm really glad, and hopefully soon we'll see each other more than maybe like once a month.
I know. Well, it's great to see all your faces, and it's good to just reconnect because I haven't seen you guys in a while.
It's good.
Little buckets of clergy. I mean, that's I mean, when you said little buckets of clergy, I didn't hear anything after that, because I'm like, I don't know if Jonathan Pajot's still listening, but little buckets of clergy, that's got to be
that's wonderful.
An image.
Bye. Thanks, Deacon Merrick.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
So to keep going with stories, this one's going to be interesting. This one involves a story of a postcard. And so, Kenny, welcome back.
Hey, good to be back.
How are you doing?
Doing well.
We're keeping you from working, aren't we?
Oh,
he doesn't work.
Oh my! Oh wow!
He doesn't work.
Man.
He just waits all week for our show to come on.
Yeah, this is the one thing I do. Yeah.
So I know you don't think of yourself this way, but as I've known you for several years now, I know you have a ton of stories, and you thought of one concerning a postcard.
Yeah. So a few years back, we sent out some postcards to our community, just some general awareness of the Orthodox Church. It said, are you aware that the Orthodox Church is the early church and that exists in Prescott, Arizona? We're still continuing that tradition here in our town. And so we sent it out to a lot of people. And then one day we got a visit from an older couple, Jim and Susie LaFuse, about 65 years old. And they had not darkened the doors of a church, as far as I understand, since the day they were married. So there was about 4 decades that they got married in a church and then never came back. And so this is the first time coming back, and it was because they got this postcard. They said that we heard that you guys were claiming that you were the early church. And so they came, and then they haven't left. And just this St. Nicholas Day, they were baptized into our church. And my wife and myself were honored to be their godparents. It was also a special double blessing because there was someone in our church, our reader Michael, who was just a good role model for me. He's about 80 years old, and he passed about a year ago. And Jim and Susie operate a foundry in our town, and so they made our first bell for our church, and it was in honor of my dear friend, the reader Michael. So I was blessed, especially by the simple act of sending out a postcard to our community.
And I feel like every time I talk to you, I feel like there's a new story like that.
Yeah.
What you've done with your outreach and greeter ministry and really trying to help the community of Prescott know that St. George is there. Like, I want to see every church have a Kenny. That's what Father Alan Boyd I was talking to Father Alan Boyd. He's like, I don't have a Kenny. I need a Kenny. And really,
I was kind of amazed by the people you already have on the show. And I was like, there was like a bunch of heavy hitters here. And I didn't know, what I was on the show for.
But I think if someone spends time with you or Father Jeffrey or anybody from St. George and starts to see the work you've been doing with your outreach and greeter ministry, they'll see persistence. They'll see determination and grit. And when it gets hard, you didn't give up. And you've developed, in my opinion, one of the most fleshed out, thriving, consistent outreach and greeter ministries that I've seen in a church. I'm not trying to praise you in terms of like talent or skill set. I really think it's your determination. You just haven't given up.
Yeah.
And I just love it. You just won't give up. Yeah.
I hope you heard what he said. He says you have no talent or skill.
That's exactly how I took it. Yeah. Everybody, that's why I only work one day a week.
All of your talent is in pinball.
You're just determined. You've got persistence. So
if he has talent or skill, then maybe he would fit into the little bucket of clergy.
Father Joseph, what are you saying?
I forgive my ignorance, Kenny. Can you give me a thumbnail sketch of your greeter or visitor ministry?
Sure. So,
that's kind of hard to do. It's expansive.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on before, like as far as like social media and website work. But let's say that we have someone from that comes to church. Then there's a welcome packet that we give. It has details about our church, obviously, but then also inviting them for a church tour, inviting for food after, kind of explaining how catechism works. If that's something they're interested in. And then that person is then taken from the greeter area outside and then walked into the church with someone else who's then sat by someone strategically that we feel is like similar niche to that person. So they have someone to talk to afterwards. And then we try to contact them 3 different times during the services, like saying, how are you doing? How's it going? We know this is kind of strange, first time here kind of thing. And we try to help them through. We give them a guide to the liturgy that we wrote. It's kind of informational about what they're seeing for first time visitors. And then we kind of walk them into the fellowship.
Hold on. I want to match. This might be the only church I've been to where their guide to the liturgy matches what they're doing in the liturgy.
Oh yeah. It's really important. Yeah, totally.
It's not like, we don't do that part anymore.
Yeah. And then when we were doing fellowship hour, we had a program, where we would hand someone off to someone to fellowship hour, and then it was their job to hand them off to an additional person. So that there's always that kind of like immediate contact with the community. And then after that, we right away we send another postcard saying, thank you for visiting. And then if you have their physical address, and then there's some email and phone calls going back and forth too, just to kind of like make sure that we're doing our part to make sure that they're connected. If they don't come back, that's fine, but we want to make sure that we've done like a really good service to them and to us to encourage them to come back to our community.
Nice. Deacon Adam, we do have a service book that matches what we do here, except in the beginning remarks, I put, because I tailored it from someone else's church, right? I put that it's always appropriate to stand, but when you're able to sit will be noted in the book. And then I forgot to put those notes in there. So it tells you to look for where you can sit, and there's nowhere throughout the whole book. So
I really know what you really think about sitting.
Yeah. Father Matthew?
Father Joseph, you get a bunch of angry people at the liturgy, right? You made me stand the whole time. What a dirty trick.
No, let me tell you guys something. We had our iconography being finished, the ceiling and everything right before COVID. So we had to move out all the chairs. And so then COVID hit. And so we could have 5 people or 11 people in church for 6 weeks. So we didn't put the chairs back in. And we still don't have chairs in. And so the reason is so people can have 6 foot of distance between them and separate in the church, and we can have a lot of people in church still. So now, I mean, this is the silver lining. Forgive me for being like quasi-trad here, but we're getting some real church furniture from Greece, but most of the space will still be used for people to spread out and stand, because in 9 months, they've gotten used to it. And I'd always heard the quickest way to get shipped out of the church is to move a candle stand. I mean, if you do something like that, you're out of here. But this is the silver lining for us for COVID, because before we had 300 chairs in there, and it looked like a chair warehouse with icons. And so now we're looking a little different. But you tempted me, Father John. I'm not going to say anything anymore.
Well, there's a lot more. Kenny, you've been on a couple of times, and we've talked about your greeting ministry, and there's a lot more detail to it. Father Joseph, if you're ever interested, you've got some kind of like key ring with note cards and like notes and directions. You've got a really incredible welcome packet. And one of the things I liked too was the informational card. Are you still doing the informational card if you turn that in at the bookstore?
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, so we do that. That's one way we're able to kind of get information, is we just offer a free book. We have a series of 8 books that we have in our fellowship hall that are kind of geared towards the inquirers, and so we have our parishioners pay $15 to sponsor that book. Ideally, they'll write a little note inside that book for whoever that future recipient of that book is, saying just praying for them, that kind of stuff. And so our parishioners pay for the books, and then every person that fills out a card with information, we give them a free book to choose from of those 8, based upon, if they're Buddhist, Baptist, you get assortment of things that are kind of geared towards where they're at.
Yeah. So there's lots of little details like that.
I've been Orthodox all my life, and I want to visit Kenny's church now.
Oh, yeah, we'd love to have you. Yeah, for sure.
I want to come in for the first time and just like be loved on.
Yeah. I did want to say something else, Adam. When I was listening to Steve talk about trolls, so something we've done was that we have a pretty robust social media campaign, and so we do get a lot of that. A lot of people we show quotes and images from the saints and the fathers, and sometimes we'll get some just really offensive stuff for sure, and a lot of good stuff too. But we kind of had a policy that we said that no matter what is said to us, we will always respond at least once before we delete the whole thread there. And that's been really productive. Father has gone, and like people have said stuff, just really awful things, and like things to do with Catholics and pedophilia, that kind of stuff. And so it's just starting off a very wrong conversation, but then we say, we're sorry you feel that way. We're sorry that you're going through this. That is awful. And so we've been trying to see, like, when people respond so negatively, there's some really damage and hurt behind those comments, and so we try to see them as hurting and respond in kind. And we've had really great responses of like people just apologizing and say, I didn't know that, and just saying, I'd love to go see you sometime. And so you a lot of times you just kind of hear these negative comments, and the quick reaction is to just first like be angry, and then maybe like, well, we're just going to delete it and ignore it. But I think that we found that in taking time to respond, it's been very helpful.
Yeah. Dilly. Well, Kenny, thanks for coming on. It's always exciting to see your comments and hear your stories. I've enjoyed seeing your ministry at St. George. So I know you're our fan, but I'm a fan of yours and everything you've been doing.
Oh, thanks.
So thanks for coming on.
All right. Thank you.
So I want to go back to, I'm going back and forth. I want to go back to another storyteller. And I don't know if people think of him as a storyteller, but I do. And I think he does a rather good job of storytelling. And so I want to welcome on Jamie Bennett from Royal Ruckus.
Hello, fathers. It's good to be here.
Hi, Jamie.
So, Jamie, I'm sorry I missed the broadcast you were on. That was one that Father Matthew was hosting and co-hosting by himself.
Yeah, we had a nice chat, just the two of us. I think you dropped into the chat though at one point. Which
I did.
nice.
I said hi.
Yeah, we were talking about threshold art, but
yes,
let me pull back the curtain a little bit. Deacon Adam says I'm not going to be at the show this week, but I got a guest booked. I'm like, well, who is he? He said it's Jamie Bennett. I said, I don't know who that is. What does he do? What's the story? He's a rapper. I'm like, are you kidding me? You're booking this? I've got no idea what's going on, and you're leaving? But it was a really good show, because talking about threshold art and your art bringing people to the threshold of the church, the threshold of faith, not Absolutely. As a replacement for church art, church music, or the faith. So it was very actually educational for me. But for a couple of days, I was a bit perturbed with Deacon Adam. He's not on my good list that week.
So Jamie, what do you
going to bring that thug rap, right?
Yes. We just assumed about you.
Right.
What's it?
Understandable.
What's it been like for COVID-19? I'm following your updates. It feels like you're always working on music.
COVID is weird. It makes everything a little bit different. So with music, I haven't been doing much in person. It has to be all online, and almost took the time to regroup and kind of work on some things. But locally, I'm in South Florida, and things are not too crazy down here. Things are a little more open. The numbers are workable, I guess, but it still has been difficult for our churches, right? We're still at partial capacity in our churches. We're having to RSVP to go on Sunday and that sort of thing, which is actually part of what I wanted to come on here today and share. Was we actually have 5 catechumens being chrismated on Christmas Eve. And in the pandemic, the Lord is still giving an increase. And so that has been just really incredible to watch. And for my part, I should also say I have been helping the last couple of years with the catechesis at our church. I work with our priests. I'm one of the teachers. We take turns teaching. So I've gotten to know these people, and several of them actually came in. One couple, I will say, actually came to our festival in January. They'd never heard of the Orthodox Church, but coming into the festival, they were curious. They came to our, we have a class we call Discover Orthodoxy, and we had that, and they came and they were interested, but they were not sold. We offered a second session on Zoom, and they came to those, and they became catechumens, and now they'll be chrismated along with several other people. So it's been amazing. Difficult.
And you've particularly had an amazing 2020. Now that you're not a bachelor anymore. Yes.
I did manage to get married during the pandemic. It's pretty wild with masks and all, but we do what we can.
And I think anybody that follows you would be curious to know. I don't know this. Did you have tacos at your wedding reception?
I forget what we had. I was just so excited about the whole day, despite the masking. But we had a lovely meal. I know that.
I have a relationship with pizza. I think the way you do with tacos. I'm a pizza maniac.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
I can appreciate that. I hope during the fast you've been enjoying some fish tacos at least, because that's definitely a delicacy around here.
Yes, it is.
Jamie,
I guess
here in
we're going to be doing delicacies. Yes.
Here in Alaska, we've had halibut tacos, and it's the best. So whenever you can make your way up here from South Florida, right, come to the other corner of the continent, I'll treat you to some halibut tacos.
I love the idea.
Do you have anything else you want to share before we say bye? And thank you for coming on. Somebody just got excited about fish tacos in the comment section.
The only thing I'd like to share is I recently revitalized my own podcast. It's called the Bruised Beards and Shipwrecks podcast. And we get into people's stories. We especially get into their stories of difficult things that they've overcome. And we've got some really good ones. The latest one that is streaming basically everywhere that people get podcasts is about a woman who walked through a cancer journey with her husband, and then how she endured the holidays after his passing. So I would just love to mention that because I think it may be of some value to people out there.
Okay, well, you get me the link, and we'll put that in the comment section. And,
all right, we'll do.
Hey, Jamie, in your next song, if you could incorporate the phrase "little buckets of clergy."
I'll be sure to do that. Maybe we can even name a song, "Little Buckets of Clergy."
You say bruised beards, right? Bruised beards? Is that the name of the podcast?
Yes.
See,
like
that makes me think of like wounded clergy.
Yeah.
Is it bruised or bruise?
Yeah, so it's brews like the brew that you drink. But I like the
bruised.
Yeah.
Little buckets of clergy. It's the same. It's the same.
I love it.
All right, Jamie, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate the work you're doing, and the threshold art. I really appreciate. I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
You know, I had that same conversation with Jonathan Pajot about just because it's not liturgical art doesn't mean it doesn't have a place, right?
Absolutely.
And he was talking about his wood carvings, like, you know, he sees them kind of in a similar category. It's not the same as an icon, right?
Right. Those are incredible, by the way.
Yes, they are. They absolutely, that's absolutely incredible. Well, stay safe in Southern Florida.
Thank you.
Enjoy those fish tacos, and keep making that music. Keep making that music.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, fathers.
Bye. How are we doing? We're doing good. We just keep rolling.
Like if you had told us that the theme of the show would be little buckets of clergy, we would have said we're not coming. But you know, this is a rollicking good time.
Well, yeah, I mean, I kind of feel guilty now because you say little buckets of clergy, and our next guest is Father Michael Nassar.
Now,
in the water.
Which bucket of clergy I just fell out of, I can't tell you. One of them.
So, Father Michael, I don't know how many thousands of people got to meet you when you were 10 years at Antiochian Village. That's just one sliver of everything you've been doing. But I just always enjoy chatting with you, hearing about what's going on in your life, ministry. You know, you're a hardworking priest, you're sincere. And
Would
so
you
there's
tell
always
council, please.
So I wanted you to mention, because I can't ever get this right. You know, we've talked with you about next year doing a live class for St. Athanasius College. And there's a Star Wars title to it. So will you share that and talk about what that is?
Jedi training for spiritual warfare.
Yeah. It was, and you tell the story of how you came up with that.
Well, I came up with it because I was asked by Hellenic College. They always have a opening of Lent retreat that they always geared around the seminarians, but the college students at Hellenic College was way over their heads. So they said, all right, let's find a priest that can't talk at that level that could talk to college students. So they thought of this guy. So I go in and I'm a bit of a science fiction fan and Star Wars and Star Trek and all the rest. So I just took all of sort of the main themes of spiritual warfare and thread them in through clips from the movies. By the end of the day, most of the college students, they were like, all right, whoever is checking our attendance, they're gone. So they were gone. But the seminarians were not sitting in going, this is really good stuff. So it was a fun day.
Yeah. So I'm thankful that we're working on having that offered online with St. Athanasius College in 2021.
It'll be fun. It'll be a lot of fun.
And in spiritual warfare, I think we should give a reference to unseen warfare.
Yeah, that was where I got a lot of the material from. I mean, you know, it was just sort of the basics of the fact that there is a spiritual warfare. That's point number one. Is it's going on. You know, a lot of folks aren't aware of that. So coming to awareness of it. And, you know, I'm not one of those that looks for the orthodoxy in Lucas's idea of all that. But the reality is there are some very basic teachings that our church affirms that you can find in the movie. I mean, I'll just give one example. Yoda is training Luke, and he says, you know, how will I know the good force from the bad? And Yoda says, you'll know when you're calm, when you're at peace. Well, we know that silence and peace and centeredness is part of when we know what's going on better. So that's just one example.
Yeah, don't give away too much. I want people to sign up. I want. And how are things going in Grand Rapids?
They're going well, you know, as well as you can at this very strange time. We're looking forward, hopefully, to we all keep talking about the light at the end of the tunnel. So, but all things considered, we were live streaming before this started. So I thank God for my technology team. They're good folks. We have parishioners that join us from as far away as British Columbia. And we have, I call it the touring band of convention. You know, it's all that folks that hang out in the lobby at the conventions. They sort of go from church to church across the Archdiocese. So when they get to Eastern times, though, we're one of their stops. So we're honored to have them here for 5 or 10 minutes. No, but thank God, things are going okay.
Good. I've been hogging the show. Do you guys have anything to say? You want to say hello to Father Joseph?
Father Michael, you graduated high school in 1984. Is that correct?
Yeah. How do you know that?
Yeah, because the first time Father Michael visited St. George in Houston when I was there, and he told me he was from California, I said, oh, when I was young and foolish, I moved to California to get rich. I lived in Orange County. He says, oh, I'm from Orange County. I said, well, I lived in Buena Park. And he said, yeah, Buena Park. And I said, well, I worked at Movie Land Wax Museum.
That's right.
And he said, oh, that's where I had my prom. And I'm thinking, oh, my goodness. And I said, what year was that? And he told me, but I left in February. His prom was in April. So otherwise, we would have met under very different circumstances. Trust me.
Yes. Oh, that's why.
Now it's 1984 all over again.
Exactly.
2020 was 1984.
Yes, it definitely feels like it. Well, Father Michael, thanks for coming on. Do you have anything you want to say before you go?
Well, just the idea I came on with to share was we try to do an outreach event every year. We couldn't do it this year because of COVID. We've done lots of different themes. We always try to make it something that is central to Orthodoxy, but also that the general public, even if they don't understand Orthodoxy, they have an appreciation for. So we've done things on iconography, but we don't talk about iconography when we advertise it. We talk about beauty. We did one on Christmas where we focused on the incarnation, but the one I think that had the biggest effect in the community, back in 2017, it was the 500th anniversary of the Protestant Reformation. And Grand Rapids, Michigan is sort of a hotbed of at least Reformed Christianity in the U.S. So I decided, why don't we host a conference talking about it? Everybody was hosting one, you know, the major colleges from their perspective. We said, why don't we do one? We're sort of the neutral arbiters on this one. We brought in Bishop Anthony to give his perspective, which was fantastic. Of course, they all enjoyed it. But we brought together Protestants and Catholics, Protestants of different stripes and Catholics, to talk about both the good and the bad about the Reformation. So I just want to throw out that idea, just something if we can find things that, questions that people are looking for the answers to, if they don't know them from our necessarily terminology or perspective, but where we have a lot to say, those are things that we've tried to do here.
Well, I appreciate the update. Go ahead.
And one final point I'll make. Do you know why we eat fish tacos, Father Matthew?
Why is that, Father?
Just for the halibut.
Yeah. You know, I've been a big fan of yours for 16 years. Father Michael came to Alaska to help run St. John's summer camp for a few years. And my first summer in Alaska, he and I shared a bus ride together to camp. You were here for a couple years.
Yeah.
You're a big fisherman. You've got more salmon in the river in Alaska than I have, which is hilarious.
It was true story. I fished for like 4 minutes. I threw the line out and this big thing out. We didn't get to keep it. If you remember this, because we didn't know if it was the acceptable, you know, breed of whatever season.
Yeah.
We put it back, but it was a big. I can't find the picture though. But let me tell you, it was like, see, the screen isn't big enough.
It was he caught a trophy fish in 4 minutes, and the guy who took a fishing said, "I haven't caught one like that in 20 years."
It was a fun time. God bless you all in your beautiful ministry.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you much.
Take care.
Well, we've been talking science fiction, and he talked about he was a science fiction fan. Any of you Lord of the Rings fans? I love the movies, and I try not to admit this too publicly. I've never read the books. I just watched the movies myself. But I love the movies, but the dwarves look rather peculiar, like in the movie. I don't remember if you remember, like they even talk about like it's kind of hard to tell the women from the men, like because of the beard. That's one of the funny things that Tolkien put in there. And so I rather loved it. But in a couple of minutes, we're going to have a guest that looks to be a descendant of one of the dwarves, Father Matthew.
Do we have an interlude? Do I have a chance? I've got a question for Father Joseph.
Okay.
And I teased it last week. You ready, Father? You're muted.
I have no answer. I know what you're going to say.
All right.
I even looked it up, but anyway.
All right, so I am reading We Came, We Saw, We Converted by the Reverend Father Joseph Honeycutt, written in 2009, which is basically the transcripts of some of your podcasts of Orthodoxy. And so this is in the chapter called Letters from the Old Country. Greetings, Abuna. I need some clarification. Like many good people, I receive a plethora of forwarded emails on a daily basis, many of which during a recent political season involved politics and the candidates running for election. For instance, some said that George Bush is the devil. Others warned that Barack Obama is the devil. Still others claim that Sarah Palin is Old Scratch. What say ye? And that was signed by Tim in Tennessee. And you said, hi, Tim. Well, do I remember that turbulent political season, et cetera, et cetera. And you go on to say, just kidding about all this stuff. Joe Biden is the boogeyman. He. So in writing, you have called Joe Biden the boogeyman in 2009.
Well, let me just say, I didn't want to have to say this, but this is one of the problems when you're clairvoyant and you do comedy. No one takes you seriously, but you've called it all the time.
That's exactly what's going on.
Well,
let me show you how young. Let me show you how young Father Matthew is and how old I feel. So he read the rest of that quote the other day to me, and in parentheses he says, "Scaramouche, Scaramouche,
Scaramouche,
can we do the fandango? What does that mean?" And
I was educated. It's from Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yes.
So Father Joseph, okay, let's go back a little bit. This question was about politics and dealing with turbulent political opinions and divisions. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about how we should handle that? Because nothing has changed. The polarization is still here. Nothing is
No, I would disagree with you. There's one thing that's changed, and forgive me, I'm going to be very serious here. Nothing's funny anymore because everybody's offended by everything. And so that book was written at a time when you could sort of poke fun at everybody and people would laugh, and you have to be careful so that you're an equal opportunity offender. But these days, offense is the only sin. And so humor, comedy it's really rare. And if it is there, you're going to be a target. If you don't mind, I'll give you a quick example. Someone wrote Ancient Faith complaining about one of my podcasts that they thought was racist because of the title. So I listened to it, and it was absolutely the opposite of that. And so I told Bobby, I said, "You're welcome to take it down. It won't offend me." And he said, "No, I listened to it. There's nothing offensive there. Can you write back to them?" So I wrote back to the person, and I said, I'm sorry, but did you listen to the podcast? So going back to some of the things that were said earlier in this episode today, we have to get beyond the acerbic dialogue that we're also accustomed to, and maybe engage one another and listen to one another, which I don't think is happening. And I'm not talking about politics. I'm just talking about among Christians to begin with. Sorry, sermon over.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
We encountered the same thing when we released this documentary series, In the Name of Choice. And we were attacked before we actually posted the videos that, well, you're Orthodox Christians, and I sure hope that you're taking a pro-life stand on this, because it would really be terrible if you didn't. And so we ended up having after it was posted, we asked her if this gal, if she had watched the first episode, and she hadn't watched any of it. So, like you say, in a hypersensitive kind of an atmosphere, we can judge, content off of a title, and get have to work our way out of it somehow.
Little buckets of clergy.
That's not going to offend anybody. That's not going to offend anybody. Well, we need to move on to our next guest. And I'm poking fun a little bit. Talk about fortunately, we still have close friends where we can poke fun at, right? And hopefully they don't get offended. So my reference to Lord of the Rings is for Father Demetrios and his massive beard, his COVID beard.
Yes, thank you. In fact, I went to a summer camp many years ago, and the guy had a kind of Tolkien themed during it, and the guy gave me the moniker of Gimli, so he actually even called which one I was going to look like.
So he was clairvoyant as well, him and Father Joseph.
Indeed. I'm trying to turn the light on a little bit here, but yes, so thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. For those who don't know, Father Demetrios is the executive director of Project Mexico, and you've been doing something with, I see in your title there, St. Innocent Service Works. And I note if that's related to the volunteer corps you've been doing with the assembly. Yeah,
so in a way, all of our ministry opportunities are daisy chained, from the time somebody's in a youth group, going to summer camp, participating in Project Mexico in a summer, going to Crossroads, going to joining an OCF chapter in college, getting involved with the Young Adult League. And I think that what we're trying to do is be a little more organized and make sure that people growing up in the church that are, alive in their faith, understand how they can continue to serve in the church. So as part of that, we had a homeless meeting of the assembly that was kind of called when the United Nations asked, what is Orthodoxy doing about homelessness? And in America, we didn't really know. And we had a meeting with all the different outreach organizations that have kind of a tie to homeless ministry. And we obviously build homes for poor families in Mexico. So we were there, and out of that, the idea came for a Orthodox volunteer corps where young people could sign up for 2 years outside of, let's say, about the graduate from college age, and serve at an Orthodox ministry for 1 year, 2 years, and really kind of offer that service. And as part of that, we in Project Mexico, what we've seen is we have 18 to 21, 22-year-olds that are often our interns for the summer, leading the volunteer groups that are both young adults, teenagers, middle school, as well as their parents and families on a service trip. And oftentimes they go and they join the Peace Corps. They go work at a Catholic charities, a Catholic ministry, often because they don't really realize what opportunities are within the Orthodox Church. So we're working now. Because of COVID and the border closures, we've been optimistic that they'll be open, but also realistic to understand that we as an organization need to grow. So under the moniker of Saints at Service Works, we've expanded to places like Puerto Rico, to doing community builds such as monastery trips. We worked at a monastery in Colorado this summer. I led a group from my parish there, as well as partnering with other Orthodox ministries where we can take our interns, put them on a site, and a volunteer group can kind of drive locally within driving distance to something in their area because of all the different COVID precautions. And if things go well, then they can also travel further abroad. So one of the reasons that we wanted to do this, and this is kind of the story that works, is that we have every year almost 500 volunteers come through our program. And over again, I've heard this story, and I'll tell you one particular one where, you know, a teenage kid, college-age kids kind of focus, they've got their goals, they're in their world. Frequently, depending which age, they're more socially focused, and they go and they see how they can actually make an impact firsthand. We hear about it at church. When we go to coffee hour, we have basketball, we, you know, participate in our youth group, we go to camp. But when they go and they help somebody in need, and they see the widows and orphans, you know, being helped directly, it ties what they've heard their whole life in the gospel together with the actual service of doing it. And it opens up their mind. And it's such a transformative experience. We wanted to kind of capture that and take it and help them to apply it in their home community. So as part of that, I spoke to somebody who was studying biology. They were a science major. They were focused in that direction. They went on a 1-week trip, maybe a real break or a summer trip with their parish, and it changed their life. They ended up going and working at a Catholic ministry. Then they went to seminary. Now they're a youth director at a church, bringing their youth every year. And so the type stories that I hear over and over again is how impactful actual hands-on service is. And by bringing people the opportunity to do that, we all want to do it, but we don't often know how to do it. You know, it's not like John Chrysostom that walked, you know, to church every day and passed the beggar woman who knew her story, talked to her, saw her, you know, like Mary Poppins of the woman feeding the pigeons. Maybe they walked past her, but she was a fixture. Today, we're driving past people. We might recognize some homeless people on the way. We really don't know how to apply this gospel in our life, you know? I mean, it takes me 45 minutes to an hour to get to church. You know, do I stop? Like, when do I stop? When do I not stop? Am I helping this person? So giving them that real tangible way, and then connecting people with the actual opportunities within the church is great, because I think in a way, if they hear we're supposed to serve and they don't see the church doing it, but they see other people doing it, and all their colleges and schools are requiring service commitments and service learning and community service to graduate, but they don't see us doing it within the church, eventually they say, well, this isn't what the church does, and this is important to me, so I'll go do it, you know, at a secular institution, at a Catholic institution. So really trying to offer them all these wonderful ministries that we participate in that they may not get it to experience in their home community. And it's transformative. So,
well, I'm appreciative of the work you're doing. And as a reminder that we've heard in several ministries today, please be praying for Project Mexico and St. Innocent Orphanage. This past summer was the first summer in 30 years that you guys were not able to have like a build summer, right?
Yes. And we've had other times where economically or we had other difficulties with people going, but never something like this where the border was literally closed due to COVID. And we have Canadian groups too, and they couldn't come to the United States. So it kind of from both directions limited the movement.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Well, thanks for coming on. Do you guys want to say anything to Father Demetrius before it moves on?
Thank you for your work with Project Mexico and the St. Innocent Orphanage, and we pray that we can get past the COVID and back to a more normal routine of ministry.
Thank you, and thank you. You inspired a gift recently from somebody in your mission when you talked about the work, and so thank you for spreading the work. Often, every other church knows about us, so it's trying to get the word out so everybody knows we're here.
Good, wonderful. Thank you, Father Demetrius.
Thank you.
Deacon Adam, can you put a link in the comments for Project Mexico?
Absolutely. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah. Well, we're ready for our final guest. We've gone through our whole final episode. Anything you guys want to say before we bring on our final guest? We ready?
We're ready.
Well, we are an Episcopal church in terms of having our hierarchy. And so here is His Grace Bishop John. You're muted. We got to take your...
Bless Master.
There we go. Oh,
Uh-oh.
There's something going on with your microphone. You sound like something from Looney Tunes.
Or
we got to figure out how to fix that. We might want to. You might want to refresh that and hop back in. Yeah, let's try that and come back in because I don't. That's definitely an interesting.
Yeah, while he's gone, that sounded like a bucket of little clergy.
Chipmunk clergy.
I mean, quite small. Do we?
And it's all being recorded, and we can go back and watch it again.
We could.
For Sanda, I don't know what happened there. Do we have any closing comments? We've been going at this now for a while, like 80 minutes, and I started a little early, as some of you saw. If you've come on late, we started early with Deacon Nicholas Kotar, and we were talking about storytelling, and I was talking about some of his books. If you're looking for some good reading, some good fiction, friendly fiction, I recommend checking out his work. It's a lot of fun and really edifying as well as entertaining. Good, healthy entertainment.
Well, on behalf of the Department of Missions and Evangelism, I want to thank you, Deacon Adam, for your work with this program, Stories at Work, over the past 2 years, and your faithfulness and consistency to this ministry and program, and all the work of bringing in guests that would have something to contribute, and also for Father Matthew Howell for this past year, for joining Deacon Adam for hosting this program.
Well, thank you, Father.
Thank you, Father John.
Is this any better?
It is.
It is.
All right. Very good.
You're a little quiet, but we definitely fixed the little buckets of clergy problem. But I don't know why you are a little quiet. No, that's probably not going to do it. Where's your microphone?
That's a good question.
Oh, you're getting warmer. You're getting warmer. Okay. Well, I wanted to have you on for several reasons, not only as a bishop, but for those who have got to know you, you're always a source of great conversation. And I can't imagine how many stories you have with all of your years of ministry in the church. So thanks for coming on.
Well, I can't think of a story, except that one of the common themes is I keep running into people who talk to me about hospitality that they experienced when they visited years and years and years ago. And folks tell me how important that was, but I hardly even noticed. So I guess I would just highlight how you just never know who you're talking to and what kind of impact you have on others. So we should just be as kind and generous as we hope God is for us in context towards each other, and just like the energies that come from God flow through us, and just keep coming. So I'm really impressed with what you guys are doing, and again, I'm really before, but really quite impressed with how much fun you have.
Sometimes you can just by making eye contact with somebody and smiling and nodding and saying hello, how are you? That can make their day. We live in such a cold society, so I'm really not surprised to hear you say what you say, but we need to be constantly reminded of it. Just showing the most basic hospitality.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I'm really impressed with how you used this COVID time to be creative about your ministries, and sharing that creativity around. I'm really pleased and thankful for what you guys are doing.
Well, you're. I apologize if for some reason the audio is still rough with you, Sayedna. I can technically hear you. I don't know what's causing it, but I want to thank you for coming on. Do you mind closing us in prayer?
Sure. Thanksgiving we offer unto thee, O Christ, your about, for all that you have done for us and through us, for granting us your church, our metropolitan hierarchs, clergy, and people, and ask you to continue to bless our going out and our coming in as we serve with you, as we serve you, and through you, we serve each other.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Sayedna, for coming on and taking time to come and speak with us.
Thank you.
Many years to you, Sayedna.
Many years.
Your blessing.
So thank you for participating in our final broadcast. Father Matthew, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, that's really actually an apropos way to finish the show. Bishop John is amazing. He's great. We love him. I could hear what he was saying, but some other people can't hear what he's saying. And considering everything that's happened in 2020, like technical difficulties at the end of the show, like it's kind of par for the course, right? There was one show we were doing where Deacon Adam, you were driving, you pull over, you stop, you got good Wi-Fi, we start the show, and 30 seconds later you were out for the rest of the show. So that's just kind of the way that it's gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has been a good show. I want to say thank you for having me on, both as a guest, as the first guest, and as a guest host and ultimately a co-host. And it's been an honor and a lot of fun to do this. And I have to say, I've learned so much by doing this, and it's been really eye-opening. So, and Father John, thank you for giving me the opportunity to participate.
You're welcome.
Father Joseph, you want to say goodbye?
Goodbye. Thank you.
Say goodbye.
Thanks for having. Today was fun. It was a lot of fun. You know, if Orthodoxy was this fun, we wouldn't be suffering enough for our salvation. So I guess now that the show is over, we can start suffering again. But it was a very nice respite. Thank you, Deacon Adam, Father Matthew, Father John.
Thank you. And Father John is the head of department. I'll let you close us out.
May the grace of God the Father, may the love of God the Father, the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ, and the communion of the Holy Spirit go with each of you. Amen. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Take care, everyone. Thank you for joining us on our final broadcast, and God bless.
Amen. Bye-bye.